Lots of wrestling news for November 10th, 2016. Hi, welcome to Steve Chats Wrestling, hashtag SCW, the wrestling channel here on YouTube.com. Thank you for choosing the channel and choosing the video. Subscribe right now. Leave any comments in the comment section. Like and share the video as well. Now, I said there's a number of stories to get through, so let's get straight into it. DWM for our first story. Due to a decline in WWE Network subscription numbers, WWE officials are looking to making another change when it comes to the pay-per-view schedule next year. Plus, haven't been finalised yet, but according to the Wrestling Observer newsletter, there will be a few less pay-per-view events than originally planned in 2017. After the December 18th Roadblock pay-per-view, WWE would have run 15 pay-per-views in 2016, plus 5 WWE Network exclusive events. Now that goes to show you that that's far too many pay-per-views. I'm fully on board with lowering the pay-per-views. I'm not excited for them anymore. WWE need to learn that actually that there is too much of a good thing. That actually, you know, less is actually more. Believe it or not. If it was me, I know we're gonna have 5 events that are going to be for both brands, which are going to be the Royal Rumble, WrestleMania, SummerSlam, Survivor Series, and of course, I think that we're going to have Money in the Bank as well for the dual pay-per-view, to have 2 Money in the Bank holders for Raw and for SmackDown, 1 of each one. We're possibly even going to get a women's Money in the Bank. I wouldn't be surprised if we see that at some point next year. But looking at the other pay-per-views, I would say then, right, we've got then another 7 to hand out. Maybe add an 8th one in there and we can have 4 Raw pay-per-views and 4 SmackDown pay-per-views and 5 together. So then that means they have 9 pay-per-view events each per year. It takes it down a little bit. It means there's a little bit more time to make storylines work, more strategy, maybe less rematches as well. I think the amount of time we see people face certain superstars, it gets repetitive, it gets boring, and for me personally, I actually think it would be a very, very good thing for less pay-per-views in WWE. Remember the old days? There used to be just the big 4. We'd have no other ones. Then we had the King of the Ring brought in. Then we slowly had In Your House brought in. And In Your House was a good thing. 1 pay-per-view a month kind of has worked. But now that we get to this point where WWE seems to not know what to do with a pay-per-view every 4 weeks anymore. They seem to just throw storylines that are, rematches basically over and over again. We see one feud last 3 pay-per-views. And we know that when someone wins the first one, tends to be then 1-1 after the second, and we get the rubber match on the third one. It happens with every feud. It's not special when we see this anymore. When we used to get the rubber match from 3 matches because of the fact that we wanted to see all 3 matches. Sometimes we don't even want to see all 3 matches and we get it anyway. So for me personally, I'm rambling on. I'm going to stop now, but less pay-per-views will be a good thing. Now, from ringsidenews.com, regarding the finish of the Sasha Banks Charlotte Hell in a Cell match, the word is that Vince McMahon feels that the finish was messed up because of Sasha Banks, believe it or not. Now, Banks was apparently supposed to go through the table and then was meant to be pinned by the natural selection. Instead, Charlotte tried putting Sasha through the table twice and Sasha didn't go through either time. There are people in WWE that feel sympathetic towards Banks and feel that Charlotte could have done more with her celebration. McMahon was said to be 100% behind the idea of Charlotte regaining the title despite the event being in Banks' hometown. Now, we've been over Hell in a Cell multiple times. Now, I do think it's one of the biggest sort of landmarks, of course, with women closing the show for the first time ever. Perhaps WWE could have done more to promote this and actually make this the main event. You have to remember it's the 3rd Hell in a Cell match as well of the night, so of course, it's going to have a repetitive feel of it once the match starts. I mean, of course, the coming to the ring entrances were bigger. They looked up at the cell coming down, which was a big deal in the main event. But for the match itself, it was the 3rd match of the night inside Hell in a Cell. And of course, yes, there was a couple of botched moments, but in a mark of WWE history, it was the right match. It felt like it was the right time, and it felt like it was the right moment. Perhaps the result was wrong, in my personal opinion, but WWE seems to be going with this angle at the moment where Charlotte wins every pay-per-view match that goes on, and I think that's going to go on for a long time. I actually think that she won't be Raw Women's Champion when it comes to WrestleMania, and I actually feel at the moment as well that she's going to lose both of those matches when she loses the belt and the rematch on a Monday Night Raw. This way, she will actually be protected, I think, when it comes to that pay-per-view record. But speaking of Sasha Banks, she appeared on the Sam Roberts Wrestling podcast and commented on the women's division being split into 2 different shows. Now, she said that she thinks it's good that they're split. There's more opportunities that can happen for women, but she really thinks there's not enough women. Like, I wrestle the same people every week. She goes on to say Dana Brooke or Charlotte, Dana Brooke. There are only 6 of us, and I think that is the hardest part. Just we need more faces on Raw. Banks also commented on people that she would like to face. She said in due time, a Bayley feud will happen. But other than that, I mean, Natalia's on SmackDown, but I haven't really had a good feud with her. I'd love to wrestle her. Naomi, Carmella, Alexa Bliss, everyone that's on SmackDown, damn it. Well, I mean, clearly, I do agree with Banks when it comes to the Raw side. I think SmackDown has got a nice blend. I think they've got enough people. Eva Marie still to come back in, and when she does, then I think the SmackDown side is complete. For the Raw side, I do agree that maybe they could have 1 or 2 other women added to the roster. I mean, Emelina is coming in, of course, very shortly. She's expected to be coming in sometime after Survivor Series. But yeah, looking at it, I do agree with Sasha Banks. But of course, at the same time, Paige was supposed to be on Raw. She was supposed to be part of that roster. She's out with a long-term injury. So, I mean, there were other people that were supposed to be on that Raw roster. Should someone be called up? I mean, I guess from NXT you could look at it, but is anyone really ready apart from Asuka? And WWE don't have the plans at the moment to use Asuka on the main roster at the moment. And personally, I think she should be as dominant as she's in NXT when she comes to the main roster. So, for me, unless she's going to be used correctly, I would keep her down NXT for now. But moving on in the meantime, in addition to the WWE Universal Championship match between Kevin Owens and Roman Reigns, the PPG Paint Arena is now advertising Seth Rollins versus Chris Jericho for the WWE Roadblock pay-per-view on December the 18th. Personally, for me, I just am not excited about Roadblock at all. I think it's a wasted pay-per-view. Why we're having it, I'm not quite sure. We've seen Rollins and Jericho a lot recently. To see it on a pay-per-view event again, it kind of feels like that it's not going to be special. I'm not looking forward to it, if I'm being brutally honest here. And I've already given my opinions on Kevin Owens and Roman Reigns before. I believe Reigns is going to win the belt. I believe potentially somewhere along the line, Reigns will lose the belt, or the United States Championship belt, before Roadblock. So it'll be interesting to see where that fits in along the line. And then there was rumours that Finn Balor could be at the event, Roadblock, but during an interview with ScreenGeek.net, Finn Balor was asked about this, and he said, "So I believe a lot of rumours went around this week about Finn Balor possibly returning at Roadblock. I think that was literally just a mistake that had been submitted before SummerSlam, and that was the projected card, and it hasn't been updated yet, so that was probably just an advertisement that slipped through the cracks. I can 100% guarantee what date is Roadblock, December 18th. I will 100% guaranteed that I will be at home with my family and friends at Christmas. I will be back in 2017. Now, for me, it didn't make sense that he would come back at Roadblock anyway. I personally think that if he is fit in time, the Royal Rumble would be the best destination, and he could go on to WrestleMania to actually try and reclaim the Universal Championship. But we'll have to wait and see where he's going to fit in, and if he'll be back indeed in time for WrestleMania, because, of course, this injury is expected to keep him out until around WrestleMania time. But we've heard positive things that he is slightly ahead of schedule, so hopefully, fingers crossed, Finn Balor will be back sooner rather than later. Now, just when you thought James Ellsworth was the most popular guy in WWE right now, of course, you only have to look at SmackDown this week in Glasgow, and every arena he's going to on the SmackDown side, everyone is chanting Ellsworth, Ellsworth, Ellsworth. It turns out that not everyone is such a fan. Booker T's had his say on a recent podcast on James Ellsworth, and he's gone to say, "It is old. I'm tired of seeing James Ellsworth. This kid has had one hell of a run, but send him back to the independents. I've seen this guy at a convention. I was appalled, but this guy is going to live this run for quite some time. He's probably getting a good price out there on the indie shows. They're probably bringing him in as an attraction, but the thing of it is, me personally, I'm not a hater, but you must ride it for as long as you can. Look at Hornswoggle. He worked for WWE for 6 to 7 years. You can't hate people like that. But you wonder how James Ellsworth is to fit in the WWE mold. It just makes you wonder. There are people in my reality of wrestling just scratching at the door. So when I see Ellsworth, there's just got to be a way, but you have to wait your turn. But it's definitely getting a little old." Well, I agree with Booker T. I'm going to be saying my opinion here that he's hanging around the main event area too much for my liking. Now, if he was going more around the mid-card area, maybe the lower card area, kind of like if you look at TNA, you look at Grado, he's not overplayed on his sort of area, he's the joke character. Ellsworth is meant to be a bit of a joke, but yet he's kind of thrown into the main event scene on SmackDown. For me, it's too much, it's asking too much, and I think if he hangs around there for too much longer, people are going to get bored. But WWE, I suppose, I mean, everyone is on board at the minute. And I've criticised WWE many times in the past when fans react to somebody, they don't always push them to the moon until it's too late. WWE are pushing Ellsworth for all they can. They're trying to get the merchandise sales. They're trying to get him on every show. They're getting the chants going. So really, you can't argue with the fact that WWE are trying to make the most of this. And you should make it and milk it for every penny it's worth while it works. But I think it'll still be relevant around the Royal Rumble time. And for me, that's where I would use Ellsworth. I would keep him off TV for a bit, have something to write him off just for a few weeks, and have him come back in the Royal Rumble. I think it'd be a big pop, and then keep him around that sort of mid to lower card area. I think then he would have some more longevity in WWE, and I think that it would be a lot better. There are rumours, according to PW Insider, that it is imminent that James Ellsworth will be signing a full-time contract with WWE if he hasn't already. And I suppose you have to give the guy credit because he's made the most of the opportunity he has been given. So I won't take any credit away from him. I just am kind of on Booker T's side. I'm a little bit bored, but I think that's more a kind of way he's positioned in the card rather than him himself. So that's everything then for this particular video on November the 10th. Thank you for watching Steve Chats Wrestling, hashtag SCW the Wrestling Channel here on YouTube.com. If there is any more breaking news, then I will bring it to you on this channel. But in the meantime, make sure you subscribe, take care, and enjoy the rest of your day. All the best, and we'll see you next time.